I'm going to ask the question, can you use your kiteboard at the cable, and can you use your wakeboard kiting? First up, the winner of the giveaway, Elon Hendrickson, guessed correctly at 37,000 wetsuits in the O'Neill headquarters. That is a rough rounded up figure, but congrats, I'll send this to you. I've already hit you up on Facebook. But this video, I'm going to explain the differences between kiteboards and wakeboards. I've come to the cable with Tom Seeger. What up, Tom? Tom goes to the World Class Kiteboard Academy, and 2 years ago he'd never ridden cable before, and now he's fully got the bug. Tom, why do you like cable?
It's just a really good way to practice like all the board skills and landing blind, and for me I've really started to enjoy riding in the park, so it's just the best way to practice since there's not many parks.
Cool. So Tom did his first cable sessions on a kiteboard. Tom, why have you switched to a wakeboard?
I mean, the main reasons for me was just so that I can not destroy my kiteboards, because mostly I do freestyle, so I've got like a carbon freestyle board and I don't want to like mess it up on the rails, and I just love the flexible bigger wakeboards. So, yeah. Cool.
So yeah, in this video I'm going to break down all the different constructions, the main differences between kiteboards and wakeboards, and answer the question that can you use your kiteboard at the cable, and could you use your wakeboard kiting? Let's get into it. So firstly, I'm going to break down the main differences. Now I'm holding a kiteboard and a wakeboard. Now the biggest difference between a kiteboard and a wakeboard is the rocker line, and the rocker line is the bend in the board. So as you can see, this wakeboard here has considerably more rocker than the kiteboard. Now what that does is it affects your speed on the water. So in fact wakeboards generally have too much rocker to kite on. They are not efficient enough, and it feels like you're ploughing through the water and you never really get going. Now you can use a wakeboard kiting, but you need to take a lot more power and know that you're going to be less efficient, and it's going to feel like you're pushing a lot of water out of the way. So it's much easier to do ollies on a board with more rocker, such as a wakeboard. So when you're at the cable park, ollieing on a flat board is a little bit harder. So to answer the question, you can definitely use your kiteboard at the cable park, but there is some compromise. It's a little bit too fast, it's a little bit harder to ollie, and it's also a little bit more delicate, which brings me on to my next point, is construction. Now as you can see, this board is a carbon board. Now it's really lightweight, and the weight makes quite a big difference kiting, because the kite's obviously pulling you along, and also the thickness as well. Now the wakeboard has a grind base, and this is like I forget the name of the material, but it's the slingshot ballistic grind base, and this thing is indestructible. You can throw anything at this board and it will be fine, whereas the carbon board, generally carbon is a little bit more brittle and it can break. So if you were hitting sliders with this, there's a lot more chance of the carbon breaking, because it's very stiff but also quite brittle. It's easier and less strong than the thick wakeboards. The other important point is the channels. Also on this kiteboard you can see there's quite deep channels, which helps when you're edging against the wind to drive the kite forwards, do bigger jumps. It helps go upwind. Whereas at the cable park you kind of want a flat board, so when you're sliding around on the features, the rails don't catch, so you have this nice big slidey patch to do a nose press on. Whereas if you're spinning around on a rail, these channels can actually catch. And the final thing to talk about regarding construction is the size. So wakeboards are generally much bigger than kiteboards, and their trending is trending's not right. And generally they're getting bigger and bigger. Like wakeboarders are using up to 160, 165 now. I've been going bigger and bigger with my wakeboards, and it just feels easier. It's a bigger, more stable platform. It feels surfier, you've got a bigger space to press. Whereas kiteboards are still pretty small. Like the biggest production kiteboard is a 142, 145. We're actually coming out with a 147 next week, which I'm really excited about, the new refraction. But generally, kiteboarders use smaller boards. They're using 130, 132. For big air, it's easier to have a smaller board. You can hold down more power, do bigger jumps. You don't need that bigger surface area. So that's another big difference. Now, are there crossover boards? Can you get a board for both? Well, this brings me on to this one. Now, this is a crossover board. This is actually my pro model board, the refraction. and I try to find a happy medium in between a wakeboard and a kiteboard. So we've got these channels, the Nakatech channels, which are inverted, so you actually don't catch on the rails so much. It's got a grind base, which is quite fun for sliding over stones and stuff, and you can still use it kiting. It doesn't have as much rocker as the wakeboard, but it has a little bit more than a normal kiteboard. So if you want a crossover board, this is the board to get, but there is always some compromise. Like, this isn't the best board for light wind. You're going to need to take more power, but as long as you're prepared to compromise for that, it's worth it, because the extra performance you get outweighs the compromise. So if you're riding both, I really like to use one board for everything as well. I feel like I get so dialed in using the same board for everything. So there are crossover boards, but there is always some compromise. And then regarding, can you use a wakeboard kiting? And pretty much no, you can't. They generally have too much rocker. If you use a huge kite and it's flat water, then, and you're really overpowered, you could use a wakeboard, but it's going to feel slow. It's not going to feel that good. Last thing to talk about is bindings versus straps. You can use foot straps at the cable park for the first few sessions, but you're going to want to get some bindings pretty quickly. I'd say bindings are actually more important than the board, because when you're ollieing onto stuff, you don't want to slip out and have one foot in the straps and one foot out. You're way more likely to slip out of your straps at the cable park than you are kiting. So I definitely highly recommend getting some boots, but you are more than capable of riding around with foot straps. It's great practice. I couldn't recommend riding cable enough. When there's no wind, they compromise each other so well, so that's why I'm always up at Liquid Leisure riding. Speaking of that, should we go shred?
Let's do it.
Cool. No pressure. I feel the pressure. Sunny English weather.
Perfect.
So, just finished a fun session. Good session, Tom?
Yeah, it was really good.
It's really cool. Got a nice fun double set at the end, which you just watched the clips. We both got some toe back fives into the bank, and yeah, it was sick. Weather was lovely. British summertime delivering. Liquid Leisure's amazing. Thanks for watching. If you've got any questions, hit me up in the comments and I will elaborate on kiteboards versus wakeboards, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out. See you later.